Well, Cornelia, you've certainly got thoughts on all of that. Let's just begin with what's going on in the Gulf news. Now, it's looking at what Mervyn King, the Bank of England central bank chief, is saying now, and he's not too optimistic.
No, he's not. And if you look at just last week, we had some really bad figures out on the UK economy. And there's every reason not to be too optimistic. We're in the middle of a quantitative easing project, and let's hope we can turn it around. What I find very interesting is when we talk about the banks and the banking sector, and yes, it's important to sort of separate the investment banking from the sort of the normal lending activities. But what's really more important is to make sure banks put the right risk management processes in place, because that's with every banking crisis where we got unstuck.
We haven't had it so far. What makes you think they're going to get them in place?
Well, that's what we have to work on, because otherwise the next crisis on something else will be coming on the heels of this one. So we really need to work on that one.
Okay, let's see if they do it. George Soros, billionaire investor, he's celebrating not his billions, but he's celebrating apparently some upcoming nuptials.
Well, that's good for him, and I'm very happy for him, and that's brilliant.
He's marrying a 40-year-old woman. Let's just see the detail that's in the South China Morning Post. Yeah, a 40-year-old woman. Apparently, the engagement party was at their summer home in Southampton, New York.
I'm very happy for him.
Okay, let's move on. Motorola, you say we've got to be optimistic, but at the end of the day, you can't ignore what's happening in the corporate world. Motorola now planning layoffs. It's told its workers it's going to lay off something like 20% of the workforce.
But it makes a lot of sense, because, as you know, Motorola has been acquired by Google, and what happens here is that they're trying to readjust the product line and get rid of the unprofitable lines. So that's a good thing, and it's interesting for Google, because Google is moving, is a fixed line basically search engine. So it's now with Motorola moving to this increasingly mobile market of getting information.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you say this is good news, but when it comes to the economy, when it comes to people obviously who are trying to use perhaps the Olympic enthusiasm to grow the economy, what happens? What are they supposed to think? It's
life, it's business. But in the tech sector, that's always the case. Some of the companies are coming up, some of them are going down, and it's just such a fast-lived sector that I wouldn't put this paint this as the gloomy picture. I would paint this as a positive picture of a company actually taking charge and sorting out its product range.
You've got to wonder about the product range as well, because smartphones, there seems to be no let-up on the popularity of smartphones at all.
No. Absolutely not. And if you look at what happened, Nokia was supposed to be the big guys, and now they have a small percentage. You look at what's happening to research in motion. We all are addicted to our Blackberries, and that's I'm switching over to a smartphone as well from my Blackberry, and I'm already worried about not having my keyboard anymore.
Don't switch then, if you're worried. Don't switch. But I think it's about moving with the times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, a change of leadership in Egypt, and this has there's been a very bold move when it comes to the power or asserting power over the military by Mohamed Morsi.
I think that is a very pivotal move, and he has done it very cleverly. He has taken Mr. Tantawi and Mr. Annan and made them advisors, so they had to step down from their very important positions, and as defense minister made them advisors. So he's moving away from the post-Mubarak regime into really his own administration. But now the proof of the pudding's in the eating. He now has to sort out his economy. You think we have problems here? I mean, look at the youth unemployment of above 50%. Look at they need to sort of create something, in the order of 50, 60 million jobs in a decade.
Cornelia, which industries would be thriving there? What would we be thinking about when it comes to Egypt?
They need to do things that create jobs. So what they need to do is they need to do manufacturing. They need to become a manufacturing center of excellence for the Mediterranean region, for Europe. They need to do agriculture, the places that create jobs. Fewer people going to university and more vocational training, more apprenticeships, because that's what gets people employed.
Okay. Well, we'll obviously keep an eye and see how this transition all switch to power progresses. Let's talk about the Olympics. You've been a great fan, I know, and you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely. I'm not sure how everyone else is feeling about the Olympics. Maybe they've had overload. Maybe they're all now looking forward to the Paralympics. They can let us know, tweet us if you want to. The marathon was the last really big event, and this was on Sunday. And I think for many people who couldn't get tickets, perhaps at the beginning thought they didn't want tickets and then left it too late and thought, actually, I want to be part of it. This is what we saw when they were lining the streets.
Yes, and it was fantastic. It was a great rah 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 moment, and then followed by the closing ceremony. And looking at the closing ceremony, that was so approachable for everybody. I thought that the opening ceremony might have been a bit hard for people who were not British, who didn't know what the NHS stood for. But the closing ceremony was really a festival for the world.
It's interesting because this marathon, even though we haven't had official figures, the organisers do believe that the numbers that attended the Olympic marathon are similar to the ones that attend the London Marathon as well. So it also makes you think about the legacy of sport in this country, how much more popular everything will be.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the legacy of these Olympics is going to be fantastic. And you know, the slogan is inspire a generation. And I think these Olympics have truly inspired a generation, hopefully 2 generations, and hopefully we'll see more people doing sports and being healthy.
And still the debate, I mean, you've seen some Olympics in your time. Would you say this is one of the greatest ones you've seen in your experience?
Well, I have not. This was the first one I've attended, and obviously I'm British, so I would like to think so.
It really was fantastic. But people will also, again, have their own opinions about it. And it's the closing ceremony that we can't... This picture, I mean...
It's just, I was so happy. The Union Jack, a take on the Union Jack. It's fantastic.
Interesting though, because the opening ceremony was very much a cultural education almost about Britain, the Industrial Revolution, our poets, our playwrights. This was more of a concert, and some people not so happy with that. Some people saying, actually, just a glorified music concert. What did you make of it?
No, I thought it was wonderful because it was the last 50 years. When did we have the last Olympics? About 50 years ago, a little bit more than 50 years ago. So it was what has happened culturally in this country over the last 50 years. And I think it was great because this was something anybody in the whole world could empathize with. So I thought that was, in that sense, it was inclusive to the world.